Mark this one on your calendars, guys. Because next season, after this show has become exclusive to the CW, and the CW has absolutely ruined it, I want you to look back on this episode, think about what might have been, and maybe cry a little bit. Because I'll be damned, Stargirl's on a roll. Well, this was it. This was the one I was waiting for. The episode where Courtney got smacked in the face with the pimp hand of reality, got confronted with the truth about every delusional fantasy she's built up to maintain her self-image, and not only became a better character for it, but finally gained the humility that Kate Kane never even flirted with in nearly twice as many episodes. There was a lot of great stuff in this one, so let's just get right into it. The episode begins at a horse farm. The crazy janitor from the high school is wandering around looking for his horse. He describes the horse to the farmer, who tells him to get lost, and he then looks around at various things, a windmill, a flag, and he flashes back to the cosmic staff and Pat in his stripesy costume. Obviously, his memory has been damaged or altered. They haven't revealed exactly how or why just yet, but you can draw some conclusions based on what happens later. Then a bus passes by. One of the passengers is a man who has a locket just like the one Courtney wears all the time, and it has a baby picture in it. This seems like something a father might wear. A father who, it turns out, is not dead, and is most certainly not Starman, despite what Courtney would have us believe. Cut to the basement at the house. Barbara's wondering if they can call the police or the government to tell them what the ISA are up to. And it's weird that it's Pat who tells her they can't, because they don't know who in the government they can trust, when alerting the authorities was his plan originally. So instead he thinks Barbara should just take the kids and get out of town. Barbara doesn't want to leave Pat there alone, and also that would leave Blue Valley in danger, but if they're not leaving, then Pat says they need to act as if everything's normal to avoid drawing suspicion from the ISA, even though Brainwave having his memories back now should have rendered that pointless, but I guess they haven't confirmed yet if he remembers who Courtney is. And then Courtney's real father shows up at the front door. Her real father, who is not Starman. He replied to Barbara's email, but he never heard back from her, so he got worried, even though that would have been like 24 hours ago at most. Courtney does not believe this is her real father, so he shows her the locket that matches hers. And you know that old Simpsons gag? You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half? It's like that. She just found out everything she believed in was a lie, and it's glorious. So Courtney wants to talk to Pat, and she's trying to hold it together, but she's already starting to unravel. I thought the staff working for me proved I was Starman's daughter, but if I'm not, then what have I been doing this whole time? I got Henry and Joey killed because I believe this so much. Just let that line sink in for a minute. Courtney has never blamed herself for Joey's death. She just used it as an excuse to keep going, to justify to herself continuing on as a superhero, because if she's Starman's daughter, then she has to keep going. But if she's not Starman's daughter, then she's just a girl who got 2 kids killed because she was an idiot who believed something that wasn't true. Courtney is finally owning up to her stubbornness and her arrogance, and I cannot tell you what a difference that makes for this character. So then Mike comes in, and he knows something's up at this point, and he keeps asking questions, but they just can't get into it right now. So when Mike presses Pat about it, Pat yells at him, and this makes Mike think that he did something wrong. Pat assures him that he didn't, but Mike clearly isn't buying it. And Mike is now the only one in the family who isn't clued in on what's going on. And given the danger they're in, I don't know why they wouldn't tell him, but the writers are definitely building up to Mike being put in harm's way pretty soon. Just when he was starting to become likable. I see what you did there, Jeff Johns. While that's going on, Barbara talks with Courtney's dad, Sam. She tried to get in touch with him after he didn't show up for Christmas in the pilot, couldn't track him down, eventually gave up, so she wonders why he's here now. He doesn't really have a good answer. That's red flag number 1. But he claims that he was thinking about reaching out for a while because he wants to get to know his daughter before it's too late, and Courtney has decided that she wants to talk to him too, because It's not like her day could get any worse, right? So they go for a walk. Courtney asks him where he's been her whole life. Again, he doesn't really have an answer. That's red flag number 2. But he gets her to warm up to him a bit by talking about stuff they did together when she was little before he ditched her and her mom and f***ed off for 10 years. Then he says he wishes he could go back and do things differently, and they end up getting breakfast at the diner. So he starts spinning this yarn about how he had to travel a lot for work, and I don't know if Courtney's completely buying it, but she seems like she wants to. She wants her dad to be the good guy she thought he was, so she's open to the chance of his excuses being true. So when he says that he knows he's a stranger to her and he wants to change that, and maybe she could visit him in California sometime, she's up for it. And then they both order the same breakfast, and it looks like they're starting to make a connection here. Then we go to Pat showing up at the garage. Rick and Beth are there, but not Yolanda, who went to church to pray for Henry. So Pat starts telling them about Sam, but suddenly the janitor shows up with his sword. And he calls Pat Stripesy, says he needs help, but then he starts hallucinating the three of them as Dr. Ito and his drones, and a fight almost breaks out. But Pat finally recognizes this man as his old friend Justin, calls him by his name, which snaps him back to some form of lucidity, and then Justin just collapses on the floor, crying that they destroyed everything that I was! And the guy playing Justin does a great job here. I like this casting a lot because the actor has this sort of innocent, genuine quality about him that hits you really hard when he falls to pieces. It's a nice moment. So they pull out this old photo of the 7 soldiers of victory, even though there's 8 of them in the photo. Get it? 'Cause Pat doesn't count. Ha ha ha. And Pat's trying to jog Justin's memory, gets him to tell the story of how he got Excalibur. Apparently, he was just a lowly page working in the stables until King Arthur gifted him the sword on his deathbed because heroes can come from anywhere. And the look of childlike wonder on his face as he recalls this really sells it. The actor's great. Casting department nailed this one. So now that he's starting to climb out of the memory hole, Pat asks him how he wound up in Blue Valley, and he says he was following a dragon until he fell, got captured, and they stole his identity. So sounds like he was hunting Grundy and then ran afoul of Brainwave, who put the whammy on him. Beats me how he got away with just a partial memory wipe, but we don't get the specifics. He is really impressed with the stripe armor though, and if he actually respects Pat, then I'm just predisposed to like this character. So good job on him so far. Then we cut to the ISA conference room where Brainwave is waiting for Icicle to show up. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brainwave ends up being the ultimate big bad of the season, because he already seems colder than Icicle does. Icicle's definitely a bad guy, but there's a humanity in him that hasn't been completely snuffed out. Brainwave doesn't have that. There's nothing in him but an empty pit. So when Icicle tells him he's sorry, and Brainwave says, "For what? Like murdering his own son meant nothing to him?" That's not in there for no reason. So Brainwave reveals that he remembers who Stargirl is now, and that her stepdad is Stripesy, and he's gonna go kill them. But Icicle puts the brakes on this because they're Barbara's family, she'd be devastated if they died, and he's sweet on Barbara, so this gives him pause. But this is the wrong problem to have when you're dealing with Brainwave, who murdered his own wife and son for Icicle's big plan, so he's pretty committed at this point, and if Icicle's having second thoughts all of a sudden, that's gonna be a deal breaker. Especially since Brainwave seems to have gotten an XP boost by absorbing his son's powers when he died. That certainly points to Henry being dead, but again, we still haven't seen a body yet. So with his newly augmented powers, now instead of 6 dates, he's gonna be mentally reprogramming half the country when this all goes down. So Icicle better make up his mind damn quick, or Brainwave is going to do it for him. Back at the house, Pat talks to Barbara about how he thinks all those drones in Ito's lab point to the ISA planning some kind of mass brainwashing scheme. It's a bit of a stretch that he could connect the dots that quickly, but okay. Also, Justin's gonna stay with them for a little bit. So Courtney and Sam get home. Courtney is kind of warming up to him now. She's just beginning to let her guard down, and she thanks him for visiting. And then he starts talking about the lockets. Because these things are really special, made by some old-timey jeweler, and they're actually really expensive. And since Sam is living in some dump right now, he thinks that if he sold both of them, he could get a really nice place for Courtney to stay in when she comes to visit. And right there, Courtney realizes what this has all really been about. She doesn't crack just yet, though. She gives him the locket, because it doesn't mean what she thought it meant, so screw it. And as soon as Sam's got what he wants, he just f***s off again. Oh, he'll be back, he says. And he wants to hear all about Courtney then. But now, the first time he's seen his daughter in 10 years, forget about it. And I just love this. Someone told me in the comics that Sam is a supervillain or a supervillain henchman or something like that, but this is even better. Because as rough as him being a supervillain would be for Courtney, that still implies that at least he's extraordinary in some way, even if he's a bad guy. But here, there's nothing extraordinary or special about him at all. He's just some deadbeat asshole. Which, in a weird way, stings Courtney even worse. And it's fantastic. So Sam leaves. Pat talks to Courtney and says that if she needs to yell or blow up or something, he's there. He can be her punching bag. It's the role he's been playing for 11 episodes. But instead, Courtney just breaks down crying and she hugs him, finally accepting that Pat's a good guy who's been more of a father figure to her than Sam ever was. And Barbara sees this, and she's got to be having second thoughts about taking Courtney away from all this now, and it's another really touching moment here. And hot damn, this is a great episode for Pat. He's getting respected, he gets to act like the mentor he's supposed to be, and there's still more to come. Because then Pat catches up with Sam, tells him how much the locket means to Courtney, and when Sam just kinda half-heartedly says he'll make it up to her, Pat tells him to never come back. And he wasn't planning to come back anyway, so it's all good on that score. But then Sam mentions that Barbara still looks good. Not as good as when he had her, but you know. And Pat just decks him with one punch. So on top of everything else, Pat gets to act like a f***ing man. He has officially reclaimed his testicles. After the first couple episodes, I didn't even dare to hope for this, but it happened. With the CW being what it's become, I can't imagine they'll let that last very long next season. But for now, it is a thing, and it's great. Back in the basement, Barbara regrets ever reaching out to Sam, but it's too late. The damage is done, and Courtney is just destroyed. All her delusions of grandeur are shattered, all her fantasies about her father and Starman have been demolished. It's like someone just threw a giant bucket of ice water in her face. She even admits that she put them all in danger because she believed in a fairy tale. So her arrogance is gone, but this Sam thing has hit her so hard, her confidence is gone too. And Barbara's also having a tough time because she wants to keep her daughter safe, but everyone in Blue Valley is in danger and needs protection. But if she lets Courtney stay and fight the ISA, she might die, so she doesn't know what to do. But that doesn't even matter because there's one more gut punch that Courtney has to take. The cosmic staff doesn't work for her anymore. And it's a testament to how far Courtney's been knocked off her perch that she doesn't even seem that surprised by this. She's so depressed right now, it's almost like she expected it not to work. She's just like, well, I guess that's it then. It's not meant for me anymore. Let me know when you want to leave Blue Valley, Mom. I'm ready when you are. She doesn't even fight it. She feels so defeated, she just accepts this, puts the staff back in the crate, and goes to school. Beautiful. I f***ing love it. Scenes like this are what Kate Kane desperately needed and never got, because it makes Courtney look human. This episode might have been the first time I felt genuine sympathy for Courtney, because right now she's not some unstoppable, super amazing hero for teenage girls to live vicariously through. She's just a kid whose life is falling apart. And this, honestly, makes her a more likable and relatable character than taking down the ISA or actually being Starman's daughter ever could have. Then we go to Icicle in Barbara's office. He breaks into her computer, and she was smart enough to delete her search history, but he makes a phone call and gets someone to restore it with science. And then he finds an article she was reading about how Starman was murdered by that horrible supervillain Icicle. So he figures, well, looks like I'm not getting laid. Alright, I guess this is the night bitches die. Cut to the high school, and Courtney talking to the JSA kids over lunch. She basically tells them that she's done. She's not Stargirl anymore because her dad isn't Starman, he's just some asshole. They point out that this shouldn't matter because Beth and Yolanda aren't legacies either, but that hasn't stopped them from being Wildcat and Dr. Midnight, and that's a fair point, but it doesn't change the fact that the staff still won't work for her anymore. And even if it did, it probably wouldn't matter since the guilt over Joey and Henry dying is really weighing on Courtney now. She thinks their deaths were her fault and doesn't want anyone else getting hurt because she thought she was someone she's not. Yes! More of this, please! It's interesting to me how much Courtney's self-worth seemed to be completely wrapped up in this Starman thing. She only wanted to be a superhero in the first place because she thought her dad was one, and now that she knows her dad was pretty worthless, she feels worthless. Like she doesn't even have a right to be a hero now. It really makes you want to go back and re-examine how much Sam abandoning her when she was 5 informed her character. It's like her dad leaving created this big hole, and being Stargirl was her way of filling it, and idealizing him instead of facing the truth because the truth was too painful. Speaking of pain, it's time for a funeral. They have a school assembly to memorialize Henry, and the principal brings out Brainwave to talk to everyone. And it's kind of funny because even though it's his son who died, he's the most robotic, emotionless person in this whole scene. So he gives this cold, unimpassioned speech about how sometimes things just happen for no reason and nobody's to blame, while telepathically telling Courtney that she's to blame. And even though I'm not sure who he's trying to intimidate, seeing as how he's 0-2 against Courtney, he basically double dog dares her to come after the ISA. And Courtney's in a really vulnerable state right now, so she gets the message real quick. And he didn't even have to challenge her to whip it out and see whose is bigger. So now they know for sure that Brainwave remembers who she is. So Courtney races home to get the staff before the shit hits the fan. And now she's really trying to get the staff to work. I don't think she was really trying earlier. I think she kind of wanted it to not work because she felt so bad about herself and she was looking for confirmation about how badly she'd screwed up. Now she's really trying, and she's frantic. She's yelling at it, just begging it to work, but still nothing. And the best part about this is Courtney's not being deluded anymore. She's not being arrogant. She's not doing it for the wrong reasons. She just wants to protect her friends and family, and still the staff won't respond. So Courtney breaks down again. It doesn't want me anymore. It chose me because it thought I was someone else, but now it knows all the mistakes I've made. And Courtney admitting that she'd made mistakes is something that would not have happened a few episodes ago. So I'm loving this. So Pat gives her a pep talk. The staff always knew your dad wasn't Starman. It chose you because it believed in you. You just have to believe in yourself again. And it doesn't matter who your father is because heroes can come from anywhere. So Courtney goes to Pat and Barbara and she's like, it's not working. I need both of you with me. She needs them for moral support, basically. Again, showing enough humility to ask for help. Very good. So they're with her to back her up now. She picks up the staff. And finally, it lights up again. And then Justin walks in, he sees this, and he says, "Our queen has risen!" I could have lived without that part. This scene was the one misstep I think the episode made. The scene itself was good, I just think it happened too soon. I think there's more they could have milked out of the story of the staff not working for Courtney anymore. At least have the ISA go after her or someone she cares about before she gets the staff to work. Imagine how she'd feel if that happened. Also, you could show the other JSA kids trying to get by without Stargirl to help them. There's a lot they could have done with this that they just didn't go for, unfortunately. Plus, there's still 2 episodes left. In my opinion, they should have held this off until the end of episode 12 and have her getting the staff to work again be the cliffhanger that leads us into the season finale. That would have been the best way to go if I was writing this. And the episode ends with Icicle meeting Brainwave in the ISA conference room again. Brainwave reads his thoughts and is glad that Icicle made the right decision, so he says they'll take care of them. Stargirl, her sidekick, and her mother. And Icicle says, get Mike too. They don't want a legacy running around. And then the camera zooms in on a timer up on the screen, counting down from 12 hours and change. Man, what a great episode this was. I was really impressed with what they did here. This was the one where Courtney finally made her official transition from a character that you just want to smack in the face to a character that you want to root for. And it can't be stressed enough how much that improves things. Just seeing Courtney at her lowest point, finally being honest with herself and owning up to all her mistakes, it's something the character badly needed after the way she'd been acting for most of the season, and she's gonna be much better for it now. And Pat had some great moments too. He got to act like a real mentor figure, he was given some real respect, he got to punch somebody. It's like the writers were trying to make up for all the crappy treatment he got in the first half of the season. And the Shining Knight stuff was really good. It was emotionally affecting. I thought the actors sold it very well. Overall, I think this was the best episode of the season. And they pulled it off without a single action scene. How about that? It was all just drama and character stuff. But when you have a well-written show, sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, the staff working for Courtney again at the end did bug me a little bit. That happened too soon in my opinion. I would have put that off until episode 12. So a little bit of a gripe there, but honestly, if that's my only real complaint about this one, then they did good. That's another check in the win column, Jeff Johns. Keep it up. I'm actually excited for the finale now. I didn't see that happening when the show started, but here we are. Isn't that nice? Man, I almost forgot what reviewing a show without getting completely pissed off and stressed out was like. What a feeling. And that'll be it for this one. If you enjoyed this review, I've covered every episode, so check out the playlist on the channel. I also have Batwoman reviews, movie reviews, and lots of other cool stuff, so check those out too. And don't forget to ding that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always be notified when I upload something. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube may have unsubscribed you since the last time you were here, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask and all that stuff, and I'll see you next time.